Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts, and we're back with another video, and this is going to be a review of Aftersun, which is a film directed by Charlotte Wells, and to me, this is honestly one of the most emotionally depressing movies that I have ever seen in my life, as it was just so well acted and directed. And not just that, but it's a film that I totally recommend that you should go check out once in your life, as it is going to be an experience that you will never forget. But I will warn you that it deals with subject matter that can be extremely depressing and hard to watch at the same time. But still, this is an amazing movie that deserves a lot more attention, especially nowadays. And I am just going to let you know that there will be a lot of spoilers in this review. I am going to break down the plot of this film. So, 20 years after their last holiday at a vacation resort in Turkey, Sophie reflects on the time spent with her loving and idealistic father named Callum. And as the world of adolescence creeps into her life, Callum struggles under the weight of life outside of fatherhood. Sophie's recollections become a powerful and heart-ending portrait of their relationship as she tries to reconcile the father that she once knew with the man she didn't. If there was one thing that I really liked about this film, is the way in how it does such an amazing job at telling a story that is deeply compelling and powerful at the same time. And while it may look simple at times, this is a very well written and quiet movie that will stay with you long after it's over. And to me, one of the most interesting things about this film is the fact that it is more than just another coming of age drama, but a powerful and intimate study on memory, depression, and the bond between father and daughter as a whole. And not just that, but I thought some of the acting performances were really well done, especially from Paul Mescal as Callum. And to me, this is honestly one of the most honest and realistic depictions of grief and depression that I have ever seen in a film. And if there was one thing that I really liked about his performance, is that he does such an amazing job at portraying his character as someone who is deeply flawed, but compelling at the same time. And when we first see him in the opening scene of the film, it starts off with him standing in front of the hotel bathroom while he is being filmed by his daughter. But when she tries to ask him some questions about him turning 31, he immediately tells her to turn off the camera. And then after that, we see a shot of him and his daughter traveling all the way to a holiday resort in Turkey. And as they get there, they immediately start to settle themselves in. And while Sophie is asleep, we see Callum deciding to smoke a cigarette outside of the hotel. And this is where you start to realize that he is a man who is deeply consumed by his own grief and isolation. And to me, this was a perfect introduction into who he really is as a person. And not just that, but it perfectly sets up everything for the film that you are about to see. And I am not going to lie to you right now. Out of all of the movies that I've seen, no film shows grief and loneliness better than this one right here. I want to talk about his childhood for a bit, as it really adds a lot to his character in a way, especially when you look at how he grew up in a very neglectful environment when he was just a child. And you can really see that in the scene of where he mentions to Sophie that on his 11th birthday, nobody gave a fuck about him. Not even his mother and father. And to me, it really says a lot, especially when you look at the reason on why he is so emotionally damaged throughout the film. And not just that, but I thought the scenes of where he tries to kill himself are honestly some of the most emotional moments in the history of cinema. And the film also implies that one of the main reasons on why he is like this is because he is struggling financially to support his daughter. One of the most interesting things about him as a character is the way in how he tries to protect his daughter from the fact that he is a lonely man, struggling with severe depression and emotional emptiness, even if he knows that it won't bring any peace to his life, especially when you look at the fact that he is desperate in wanting to do whatever it takes in order to prove himself that he can be a good father and a good parent at the same time, despite his inability to cope with his own guilt and loneliness. And to me, it's a perfect example of the fact that he is honestly one of the most compelling characters that I have ever seen in a film like this. If there was one thing that I really liked about Paul Mescal's performance, it's the way in how he brings so much depth and humanity into this character. And to me, it's a perfect example of the fact that he is honestly one of the best actors working in Hollywood today, as he does such a great job at playing characters who are deeply complex. And you can really see that through his powerful but subtle performance as Callum. And not just that, but it is so much better than his other roles like Gladiator 2, for example, as that film just didn't need to be made. And not just that, but Paul Mescal didn't even make that film any better. But here, he proves that he can be a great actor. As he made Callum someone who you can actually feel sympathy for. And overall, Callum is such a well written and complex character. And Paul Mescal honestly makes his film better than it already is with his performance. And the fact that he was nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars is a perfect example on why this is honestly one of the most powerful performances in the history of cinema. And I totally recommend that you should go check out some of his other roles like Normal People and his new film Hamnet, for example. I thought Frankie Corio did such an amazing job playing Sophie, and to me, One of the most interesting things about her as a character is the fact that she tries to do everything he can in finding out on who her father was as a person through the memories that they had with each other when she was just a young girl. And if there was one thing that I really liked about Frankie Corio's performance, is the way in how she brings so much depth into the role, as it really makes her character someone who you can actually care about. And not just that, but I thought the relationship that she had with Callum was just so well done, as it felt so realistic in a way. And overall, this is honestly one of her best performances, as she really proved that she can be a great actress, even if she was just 10 years old at the time of filming. And it wasn't just her and Paul Mescal that gave great performances, but I thought the supporting cast did a pretty great job playing the characters, especially from the actress who played adult Sophie, even if she wasn't in the film that much. And she is portrayed as already moved on with her life, but she tries to find out on what her childhood was really like. And it really adds a lot to the fact that this film is just an absolute masterpiece when it comes to the way and how it's written. I thought the direction from Charlotte Wells was just so well done, as she did such an amazing job at telling a deeply intimate but powerful story about a young woman trying to reconnect with the memories from her past. And not just that, but I even heard that she based the whole film of her experiences with her father when she was just a child. And to me, I thought she did a great job at showing that through this movie. And overall, Charlotte Wells really proved that she is honestly one of the best directors working today. Despite the fact that this was her first time directing a feature film. And if you actually think about it for a bit, she really proved that she is just the absolute best when it comes to telling stories that are deeply personal but meditative at the same time. The cinematography is honestly one of the main reasons on what makes this film so good. And if there was one thing that I really liked about it, is how it gives the film a very realistic and intimate feel to every scene that takes place, as it's all done in a way to reflect the relationship between the two main characters and the film's themes about the search for human connection and nostalgia. And even though that this movie was shot on a $2.5 million budget, this is honestly some of the best cinematography that I have ever seen in a film like this, as it fits perfectly with everything that this film is about. And not just that, but I thought the cinematographer did such a great job with this film. And to me, this is honestly his best work, as he made Aftersun feel so haunting but beautiful at the same time. And you can really see that from the way in how it uses flashbacks. I thought the scene of where Callum has a mental breakdown in the bedroom is honestly one of the most emotional scenes that I have ever seen in a film, And I just want to say that the acting from Paul Mescal in the scene is really good, as it fits perfectly with everything that this character went through. And if there was one thing that I really liked about the scene, is the fact that this is a pretty authentic depiction of what it feels like to be depressed. The last dance scene is honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is just an absolute masterpiece of cinema, as it was just so well shot and directed. And it starts off with Callum deciding to spend one more time with Sophie before she has to leave for the airport. And I just want to say that the music in the scene was just so well done, as it really makes this film hit much harder than it already is. Especially when you realize that this is her trying to make sense of the fact that this was the last time that she ever got to spend time with him. And the scene ends with her tearing up as she finally embraces him. And if there was one thing that I thought was really interesting about the scene, is the way in how it's edited. As you see flashes of the adult Sophie trying to do everything that she can to save Callum. But in the end, she fails, and it's honestly one of the main reasons on why this scene is so powerful. And I am not going to lie to you right now that when you watch this film, it will break you in a million pieces, just like what it did to me when I first watched it. And don't get me wrong, this film is so much better than the shit you get right now. And overall, this is honestly one of the most emotional scenes that I have ever seen in a movie like this. As it really adds a lot to the fact that this is a great film that will be remembered long after it's over. And I just want to say that the rave scenes were just so well done, as it's all done in a way of reflecting the mental state from Callum and Sophie's way of processing the fact that Callum is a deeply suicidal person. This is the rating that this film got on Rotten Tomatoes, so 96% from the critics and 82% from the audience. And I am going to read out the reviews right now. So for the first review, poignant and anchored by Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio's terrific performances. Aftersun is an outstanding debut from Charlotte Wells that quickly confirms her directing talents. For the second one, Charlotte Wells' feature debut, a heartbreaking portrait of a father and daughter, is an ode to memory that recalls the texture and details of a childhood holiday. For the third one, Aftersun is a sad and beautiful exploration of grief, of Sophie's struggle to reconcile complex and conflicting feelings about her father, and her struggle to forgive his decision, and perhaps to forgive herself. For the fourth one, Charlotte Wells gives us one of the most piercing debut in recent memory with this intimate dad-daughter relationship drama. For the fifth review, Aftersun is so interesting in the way it explores the reality of parents that they keep their children in the dark about. And that is something I most definitely agree with, and as I read these reviews, I will admit that this is one of the only movies that I've seen of where the praise from critics actually felt like it was deserved, as this is honestly one of the best films of the 21st century. And I am not going to lie to you right now. This film was just so powerful, and when it comes to all the other movies that I have watched in my life, this one hit me the hardest, as it makes you want to reflect on your own life in a way. And not just that, but it makes me realize that this is one of those movies that we just don't get from modern Hollywood anymore. Because nowadays, every film has to be a remake or a spin off of something that we didn't ask for. And that is exactly why we should keep supporting films like this. But I will warn you that don't expect this film to be an easy watch, because it's not, as it can be pretty hard to watch at times, as it's slow paced too, and that's just one of the main reasons on why this film is so good, because it actually tries to ask questions about who we really are as people and the relationships that we have with our parents. And I can definitely see why the critics like this film, and it makes me realize that I like this film too, because I like films like this. They're slow but emotionally impactful, and that is exactly what Aftersun is. It's a powerful encapsulation of what it feels like to remember people. And Charlotte Wells, she should have won an Oscar for this film, as she really proved that she can be a great director. And even though that she made a lot of short films, they all showed that she is just one of those filmmakers that actually give a shit about the story that they want to tell. I thought the soundtrack was just so haunting, as it fits perfectly with the emotional tone of the film. And I'm going to show you an example of it right now. No, I'm actually serious. Go watch this movie, man. Because it's definitely going to be one of the most powerful movies you are ever going to get. And I am not gonna lie to you right now, this is one of the first movies that actually got me. And no film has actually done that more than this one. This film is a masterpiece of cinema. And even though it was from fucking 2022, which was not a good year for movies in my opinion, this is one of the best recent movies that's ever come out. As it's just so well written and well acted and well directed. This film fucking broke me. I first watched it. That's how powerful it is, man. Remember what I said about this movie being a quiet masterpiece? That's what it is. I'm not bullshitting. This movie really shows the pain of broken memories, doesn't it? I am going to explain the ending of this film. So, after the dance scene, we see a shot of Callum saying goodbye to his daughter as she goes to the airport. And the film ends with the adult version of Sophie looking at the photos as the camera pans all the way to Callum closing the shutter of the camera and he leaves the building, which implies that he may have decided to commit suicide. And overall, this was a sad and powerful ending to a film like this, as it fits perfectly with everything that this film is about. The pain of broken memories. I am going to show you the trailers of this film, starting with the first one. If you haven't heard about Mubi, I totally recommend you should go check out the stuff they got. They're better than Netflix, better than HBO.
Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Way better.
They're like kids. Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Sophie, they're like old.
Think you live in a bed Scotland?
No.
Why?
There's this feeling once you leave where you're from that you don't totally belong there again. You okay through there?
Don't you ever feel like tired and feels like your bones don't work?
Doesn't this film remind you a little bit of Manchester by the Sea?
We're here to have a good time, eh? You know, I want you to know that you can talk to me about anything as you get older, you know? Done it all and you can too.
Wish we could escape for longer.
Me too. You know, I want you to know that you can talk to me about anything. Done it all and you can too.
Wish we could escape for longer.
Me too.
In conclusion, this was an amazing movie, as it does such a great job at showing a powerful depiction of the relationships that we have with our parents and the memories that we try so hard to maintain. And not just that, but it makes me realize that we need more films just like this, especially when you look at how movies have literally gone to the point of becoming soulless and empty. And overall, Aftersun is just an absolute masterpiece, as you could really tell that this was made by a director who actually gave a shit about the film that she wanted to make, and she did it perfectly. And I just want to let you know that the next films I'm going to be reviewing is Goodfellas by Martin Scorsese, Stay, and The Hunt, so get ready for those. Also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now, and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness.